Hey guys, it's Teresa here, and I was just popping in to make this video real quick to give an update on the garden that I planted last year. So last year I officially started the Soul Appeal Wellness Garden in my backyard, and it's been a little bit of a rocky start. So last year I bought some fruit trees and decided to build terraced garden beds. So that in itself was a project, planting all the trees. First of all, figuring out where the trees were going to go, making sure I had enough space to put in between each tree, and then figuring out where the garden beds were going to go and all of that. So last year, since I was busy doing all of that, I didn't actually get to plant anything before it got too late in the spring season. And I did not attempt a fall garden just because I was overwhelmed with everything else that I was doing. Plus, the end of 2024 got hectic for me, which is neither here nor there, but that's the reason why I never set out for a fall garden last year. So this year, I just wanted to pop in and give an update, like I said, because I actually did get to plant some things before it got too late in the season. Like, I got them in right on time. So I'm super excited about that, and to show you the progress of everything that's been, or how everything's been growing so far. And then to give you an update on the fruit trees that I planted last year, and progress in general on the backyard design, because when we bought this house 4 years ago, it was a new build, so there was no backyard. It was just literally hay, and where they had cleared out the trees that were at the back of the plot. So we didn't have the fence, so I didn't like the idea of having hay piled up back here, just because critters, snakes, and things of the such. So we cleared out all the hay, and since then we've been deciding what we're gonna do. So without further ado, I will start the tour and show you how things are going in the Soul Appeal Wellness Garden. Okay, so here is how things are going so far in the garden. And before I go any further, if you haven't already, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button, like the video, share the video, and of course, if you have any comments that you'd like to share, leave them in the comment section below. Now, without further ado, here is the area that I created for the fruit trees. So let me zoom out a little bit. Oh, this way. Okay, that's not working. So anywho, so the first tree here is a Granny Smith apple tree, and basically just put it in the ground with some compost and planting mix, Kellogg's planting mix and Black Cow compost, and then mulched around it. So at the end of last season, I gave it a pretty heavy pruning, and I'll do the same thing again at the end of this season, just to make sure the tree is working on establishing its strong roots and branch system before getting to working on the fruit. So next over here we have a blueberry plant. And then behind that are some gladiola bulbs that I planted last year. I have yet to see any flowers bloom from them, but I'm hopeful that maybe this year or next they will. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll see. Next we have a cherry tree. This one is the Lapin's cherry tree. Not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but this one's doing really nicely. So last year it grew to be about 5 feet tall, but it was just growing straight up. And since that was the first year, at the end of that season, I came in and pruned to right here. So I cut off probably about 2/3 of the tree. And then this season, it's got all these new branches growing. So it's nice to see it bushing out. I don't want them to get too tall, and I do plan on keeping them small because each of the trees are only 7.5 feet apart. So it'll be like a small fruit orchard, well maintained and kept to a dwarf size for each of the fruit trees. Next we have another blueberry plant, and then more gladiolas. This next tree is a Honeycrisp apple tree, and same thing. Last year it got a heavy pruning. This year it'll get another pretty good pruning. And last year there were actually some teeny tiny apples that were on here, but they ended up blowing off in the wind. I would have removed them anyway though, just because when the fruit trees are young, as I stated, It's important to pull the fruit off the first couple of years so that the tree can work on establishing itself. Next up is, so this is interesting because I planted a peony bulb in there a few weeks ago and I don't see any action happening, so not sure if anything will happen from that, but we'll see. And then back here, more gladiolas. And then last week I actually came back here and sprinkled some a pack of wildflower seeds, and they are starting to sprout a little bit there, so we'll see how it goes. It also looks like they're being eaten probably by the snails or whatever likes to eat new flowers when they're blooming, so that's always fun, trying to fight off the pests. Over here is the black Tartarian cherry tree, and same thing last year. This one grew to be about 5 feet tall, but it was straight up with one main center branch. So at the end of the season I came in and trimmed it all, or pruned it all the way down here at this point. And so all of these branches that are sprouting out now, this is all new growth from this season. So it's nice to see that these are doing well. And a couple of weeks ago I was out here and put down all fresh new pine chips for the mulch. So I'm pretty sure that that also has an effect on the growth, acts as a fertilizer. Back there is more gladiolas. And then up here I sprinkled some echinacea, or planted some echinacea here. Not sure if that's echinacea. It looks like the Bermuda grass is starting to make its way over here, so I'll have to do some weeding in the next couple of days. And then there are some dandelions that are popping up, and when I see dandelions in the yard I tend to leave them just because I know that they are a very beneficial plant. I know that the entire plant is edible and they're flowers and they bring pollinators at the end of the day, so no need to get rid of them since they are beneficial. This is the peach tree, and this one's doing really well as well. Definitely got a lot of growth from last year. It's actually due for a pruning now because peach trees as well as plum trees are supposed to have a vase shape, and as you can see this one's got a lot of crowding in the middle, which can be not beneficial for the tree. It can lead to disease and sickness, so I'm gonna have to get my pruners out and do some work on that tree probably tomorrow. And then down here we have a beautiful little lily growing. I planted this bulb last season as well, and it's been growing for the last few weeks, and I've just been waiting to see what color it would be, and imagine to my surprise that it is my favorite color, pink. So I can't wait for the other two bulbs to open up so I can get a nice pretty picture of that pink lily that's growing so beautifully. Okay, so moving over here, we have the dry creek bed, and I actually put this in last year as well because our backyard is on a slope. We live on a mountain and the backyard has a heavy slope, and there's a gutter right there on the side of the house. And so every time we get a heavy downpour of rain, of course the water runs down, and what was happening where the creek bed is erosion. So at first it started off as a little crack, and then every time it rained it would get a little bit wider, a little bit deeper, a little bit wider. A couple times we tried to fill it in, but of course every time it rained it would just clear out again and be washed away. So I did some research on different solutions for erosion. I'm not a fan of grass just because of how much maintenance is required. Plus we live on a mountain, so there's a lot of rocks. As you can see, this is all stuff that came out the ground in the process of working back here. In addition to all the big rocks that you see around the edge of the bed, those are all rocks that have been dug out. So I say all of that to say it's very rocky back here. So it's not necessarily the best environment for grass unless you do a lot of pre-work to prep it, and I don't feel like doing that. Plus, like I said, grass is a lot of maintenance and upkeep, and I'd rather go with wood chips, stones, rocks, gravel, any of the low maintenance things. So yeah, so this is the riverbed and I love it. It's not finished yet, but it is working for now as far as the erosion. Up there by that wall, up by the fence, we had to put that big pile of chips because again, the erosion was crazy coming off of that gutter. And there's actually another gutter when you walk through the fence right there. There's another gutter on the side and then another gutter up the front of the house, all on this side, so they all run down that same path and add a little gravity to the force of water, and it can become a very powerful thing. So eventually I want to continue this, the rocks all the way around the entire inside of the fence, just because I love rocks. I think it's a really nice finished look, and it's very low maintenance, and it's hard for animals to dig through and nest in them, which I don't need any stray animals in my backyard, which is why we had the fence put in. Anyway, moving on to the plants. So in the creek bed we have, so the green plants are junipers, and then inside the mulch circle are calla lilies that are starting to come up again from last year. We have another juniper, and then these in the middle of the creek bed are daylilies. I put them in there because I know daylilies can handle pretty rough conditions as far as heat and dry. I'm sorry, wet and dry. And so with this creek bed being created, of course it's going to hold water, so what better than to put daylilies in there so that when it rains they are very happy campers. So over here, this is hibiscus, and I forgot the exact name of it. I think it's maybe midnight something or another hibiscus. I can't remember, but it's not necessarily the one that's most popular that everyone uses to make teas and stuff. It's the other one, even though I do believe that this does have edible flowers, though I have not yet tried to harvest them or dry them out and use them for anything. So we'll do a video if I decide to do something like that in the future. Down around the hibiscus, I had planted some purple hearts. So I think there were 4 or 5 going around that semicircle type shape, but I don't know if they're all coming back. I see 3 popping up over here, and then another one popping up over here, but I think there's another one in here, but I also may have accidentally stepped on that at some point when it was coming back, so I don't know if I killed it or damaged it or what. Time will tell, and we will see. Moving on, we have pink salvia, which looks like it is going through its first cycle and ending its first cycle for the season, so I don't know if it's going to come back again, but it did have some really pretty pink flowers on it. The pollinators loved it. There was always butterflies back here while the flowers were blooming and plentiful, so I hope it comes back again. This is monkey grass, and that's another monkey grass. And then we have another hibiscus across the riverbed with more purple hearts down below. And then this is a white salvia plant. Looks to be actually doing well, growing a little bit more out of its space. This is another peony that I planted, so we'll see if that takes any action or if I may need to rethink what I'm putting in that spot. It was a juniper, but last year it died, so I took that out. And then we have another juniper over here. And then walking down, over here I have bee balm. And so this is an interesting looking flower. It's a very pretty plant. I love the smell of the bee balm. It's very spicy and earthy. So yeah, it's a really pretty smell, and this one brings a lot of the pollinators too. I always see bees and butterflies hovering in this area on this plant and the flowers. And this is one of the daylilies that actually opened up. Yesterday one of the yellow ones was open, but it's closed today. But this is one of the ones that opened for today. So I hope it gets to a point where they're all open at the same time, because that will be so pretty. Then moving over here is the rosemary. 2 rosemary plants that look to be thriving, so that makes me very happy. Here are my roses. These are knockout roses, and honestly they need some work. They need some pruning. They were all bloomed a few weeks ago, and then the other day my daughter came out here and she's like, "Mom, what happened to our roses?" And I was like, "Don't worry, they'll be back. They just need a little TLC as soon as I can get back out here again consistently." But here is the area where I put the garden beds that I was talking about. So you'll notice that they're terraced and then built into the ground. So again, because we're on a sloped backyard, it's sloped coming off the fence, and then it's sloped coming from the back of the house. So I built the beds into the ground. I used the easier method that I found online with the blocks and the boards and then the rebar. 1, because it was very easy to put together, but 2, because I can move them if I decide. So I had actually, hi, my daughter just got home from work. So when I first built the garden beds, they were actually over there in that area where it's flat, but it was taking up a lot of the area that I think has potential for future landscaping. So instead I moved them over here. Plus it's better sunlight over here. The sunlight lasts longer throughout the day. And so these are my garden beds. So inside the garden beds, this is also exciting. I've got quite a mix of things going on. And so this is watermelon, and I have it growing out of the bed so that I can place cardboard down on the ground. That's a technique that a guy that myself and my husband were introduced to last year, who told us he used for his watermelon crop and ended up having a terrific season with plentiful fruit and minimal disease and sickness to the plants because they were up off the ground. So I'll be laying some cardboard down out here, and hopefully that will help with further killing the grass that is starting to peek through the wood chips that I just put down not too long ago. Anyway, moving on, that is another watermelon right there. That is some dinosaur kale, and you'll see that I used the square foot gardening method. That is some more kale over there. This plant right here and this one right here are both volunteer Roma tomatoes that came up from the compost that I created, or that I made and put in the beds. These are beets. There was actually about 30 or 40 tomatoes total across all 4 beds, but I pulled them up because we don't need that many tomatoes, plus they would have taken over and I would have had too many, just too many. So in here are some varieties of chard. And then this is actually some arugula that I'm way behind on harvesting, and I need to get out here before it starts bolting, like the broccoli rabe behind it has already managed to do. So I'll just keep that and let it finish bolting so it can go to seed, and I can collect the seeds for next year. Over here is some corn on the cob, 2 different varieties. I do have like a grid or a guide in the house where I recorded everything that was planted in each box. So I do use that for reference, but it's also interesting to see where certain things pop up, where certain things don't pop up. Every box that you see had seeds planted into it of some kind. So if they're bare, they just have not sprouted yet. So that's always interesting to see what takes off and what doesn't. It's also interesting to see what comes up where. Like for instance, this basil right here, I did not plant basil in this box. I cannot remember what it was, but I know basil was planted towards the middle of every bed because it's a good pet deterrent, and I like to keep it in the center of the beds to keep all the pests away. But I don't know how it ended up on the outside over here. There's also one over there that ended up on the outside. So I'm happy about it because hopefully they're keeping the pests away. This is a watermelon or some kind of squash or melon, which is interesting because I didn't plant any melons or squash on this side of the bed. They were all on the outer edge of the bed so that I could use the grow out of the bed onto cardboard technique. So that's interesting. This plant, I'm not sure. I think it's a weed, but I also put a picture of it in AI and it said that it could potentially be okra, which I didn't plant any of. So number one, if it is okra, don't know where that seed came from. And number two, I'm just gonna wait and see what happens. And if it turns out to be a weed, I'll pull it. But yeah, as of right now, I was told it was okra, so we'll see. That is I think they're that's chard. So yeah, that's definitely chard. And then another bunch of chard in there, that basil back there. That's a pepper right there that I started from seed. I don't know if it's gonna have enough time to grow and actually produce. Peppers take a long time, and I did not start any seedlings in the house this year. So I did buy 2 starter plants though, because I didn't start any seedlings, just so that I would be able to get some kind of peppers. These are tomatoes, and I know they need to be separated out. I should have plucked the weaker ones or pulled the weaker ones a long time ago. So I know I'm just behind because life happens. Over here, we have some bush beans growing. And this is cool to see because this is the first time I'm actually out here looking to see, but there's actually some green beans that are starting to grow. So that is so cool. I'm so proud of myself, like to see my first crop come up from seed. And I just remember how fresh grown vegetables taste. From when I was younger and my grandfather grew a garden, we used to help harvest the crops out of the garden and how they would taste. I specifically remember the green beans, the tomatoes, the watermelon, the corn on the cob, the grapes, the Concord grapes, and the peppers and the strawberries. Everything was so good. So I'm hoping to have even just a fraction of what he was able to do, and I'll be happy. Here are 2 lavender plants that I purchased from the nursery last week. It's been raining a little bit off and on, but I need to get them in the ground, and I'm thinking of putting them somewhere near the roses just because I know that lavender and roses are great companions for one another. So once I can get out here, probably for a nice full day, I have a full to-do list of things that need to be done, which is always the case. So over here in these beds have another corn on the cob variety. That's a volunteer tomato. Those are volunteer tomatoes. Oh, just dropped my nose ring. That is kale. This is chard. That's a volunteer tomato. So I left some of the more of the volunteer tomatoes over here because less of the things that I actually planted sprouted. These are beets and they are growing nicely. I plan to let them continue to grow. I'll probably use some of the leaves for some salads maybe, but I want the actual bulbs, the actual beets to grow, the roots. So those will stay as long as they need to. And then in the middle there's some more chard. I think that's salad greens in the back, and I believe that's arugula back there, or maybe muscloon. And then there's some other things that are starting to sprout, but they haven't come up yet. And then up here we have, I'm pretty sure that's arugula, but I can't remember. I planted a whole bunch of stuff, and like I said, I have the guide in the house, so if I really want to know what it is, I'll just go grab those papers. This is some more broccoli rabe that bolted before I had a chance to get to it. So I'm waiting to harvest those seeds. Again, with the basil popping up everywhere. So I did not plant basil in this square, I don't believe, but I have what looks like 3 different basil plants coming up, so I'm gonna have to eventually transplant those. And then back there we have the cucumbers and my DIY trellis made from an old portable twin bed frame that folds down. The other part of it is in the garage, so there's another half that when you put it together makes a full-size bed, and I may need to bring that out too because the cucumbers look to be getting out of control in the best way. On the sides of both cucumbers there were some peas growing, and they're still growing, but at one point they looked like they were dying, so I never got out here to trellis them. But it looks like they're still thriving, and I do see some volunteer tomatoes look like popping up in between there, so I've got some work to do, obviously. It's just a matter of getting out here to do it. Over there are some collard greens. Then over here I have another thornless blackberry, and this one's got tons of berries on it. It's really nice to see. This had one small little branch when I first got it with no berries on it, so it's got a lot of new growth. It's really starting to take off, and I can't wait to taste one of these. And then last but not least, or not last but not least, but moving over here is our plum tree. And so let me see what variation of plum. This is Santa Rosa. And so this was also planted last year. This will get a nice pruning at the end of the season as well, but because it's not as full on the inside as the peach tree, it can probably wait until the end of the season to actually be pruned. So here is what the backyard looks like And again, it is a work in progress. We're still trying to decide what we want to do with the rest of the area that does not have rocks. So I know I want to add a fire pit over there where it's kind of bare, like right here, fire pit with the seating area. I'd like to add a walkway coming from this gate up through here, and then maybe have it branch out past the trees back that way, and then come around in front of the trees. And then after the fire pit area, I'd like to add a swing set for the kitties, and then I'd like to add, so where all of this stuff is sitting down at by the fence, those 3 gray bins, that's compost, of course the wheelbarrow, and then we have water, the rain barrels, and an outdoor compost bin. So all of that stuff's going to be moved, and I plan on putting a pergola and either a concrete slab or another paver patio underneath, right up against the fence area right there. And then I don't know what the ground is going to be. I'm not really feeling grass just because this is a very rocky area, and the clay makes it kind of hard to maintain grass. Plus grass is just very high maintenance. So I'm thinking a combination of pea pebbles around the fire pit area, and then maybe rubber mulch or turf under the swing set area, and then the concrete slab or gravel for under the pergola. And then of course the walkways will likely be pea gravel with paver stones in the middle. But yeah, there's a lot of work to be done still, but we've gotten a lot done, and I'm happy with how it's coming out. And this is our paver patio that we did. We finished it last year. This was quite the project. This did not come with the house. We did this ourselves. We had gotten a quote on it. And it was just way beyond what we were willing to spend at the time. So I looked into DIY and found out that we could save probably 3/4 of what we were quoted if we just learned how to do it ourselves. So of course I went to YouTube University and got busy researching, taking notes, learning, watching tons of videos. And at the end of the day, it came out pretty nice, I would say. It's not 100% level, just because we're not, professional mason workers, or mason, I don't even know what they're called, but we're not that. We're just some folks who needed a patio and didn't want to spend over $20,000 to get it done. So we did it ourselves, and we're happy with the outcome. And then as you can see, I've got tons of plants growing on the patio itself. So I'll just start over here. This is mullein that someone gifted to me, and it is doing fabulous. It's blossoming like crazy. It was a bare root plant when I first got it. I had another one next to it, but it died. And then that was lemongrass last year. I thought it was going to come back because when I went to go put it in the compost thinking it was just an annual and it was dead, I could still smell lemongrass. So I'm kind of waiting patiently to see if it's going to come back, but I don't know. To be determined. This is a baby blueberry plant. So funny story, I bought this last year and sat it on the patio, and it had a couple of leaves on it. And then one day I came out here and all the leaves were chewed up, just like kind of how they are now, but it was very, very few leaves. So it just looked like a branch sticking out of the dirt. So I thought it was done for. So I put it off to the side, and then, I don't know, back in March, I think I came out here and noticed that it started to look like it was coming back. But I wasn't sure. I didn't get too excited right away. And then, as the weeks progressed, it started to grow more. I think that's a weed growing next to it, so I'm gonna have to pull that probably. I thought it might have been a marigold, but it's probably a weed, knowing my luck. So if it is, it will be pulled. But yeah, the blueberry plant is coming back, so that's a nice surprise because I thought it was gone. And then over here next to the blueberries, got some bell peppers. So these are the peppers that I said earlier that I had gotten some starter plants just because I didn't get a chance to start my own early enough in the season, so I didn't have any transplants, and the seeds that I did plant, it may have been too late, I'm not sure. But yes, this is a yellow sweet pepper plant, and it's got a nice big one and then another smaller one in the back. I don't know if it's gonna get any more. And then over here I've got the Bonnie green bell, and that's got a ton of little peppers sprouting on it, so happy to see that. And moving over here, I've got some hydrangeas, some lemon balm, some catnip, and some peppermint. That hydrangea didn't come back, so I'm guessing it's dead, done for. probably end up in the compost. And then another hydrangea. That's some regular, I think, spearmint. And then another hydrangea. And then all of our tomatoes. So the rest of the tomatoes on the end is cherry tomatoes. And then those are all aroma tomatoes. That's a collard green. And then that is I forget the name, but it starts with an N. It's like no stories something. But it's another plant that was gifted to me, and it helps deter pests that are detrimental to the garden. So this is our space. This is the garden progress so far. I have plenty of plans left, so still want to add an underdeck roof because the bumblebee or the carpenter bees, which I didn't know were a thing until I moved to Georgia, like to come and try to tear up the wood. They like to drill holes, and I guess they nest in there, I'm not sure, but I don't want them in there because that can attract woodpeckers who will then come and peck holes bigger than with that to try to get in to get the bees. So that's coming very soon. And then yeah, that's just about it. So, and then the last area is the compost. So over here is where I make the compost that I use to fertilize everything that's in the garden beds, and then whatever's left over I place around the plants and the trees. So these are the 3 bins. I started with this first one on the end 3 years ago or 4 years ago when we first got here. And I just took the bins, drilled some holes, again, learned from YouTube what to do. I got a drill, drilled some holes around the sides for ventilation, around the top. And I can't remember if there's some on the bottom, but there probably is because it would be silly not to have drainage on the bottom. Yes, there's holes on the bottom too. So yes, this is where the magic happens. I will go ahead and open one of these bad boys up just to see how things are progressing. But I was happy because the other day I came out here to add some more food and more materials to the compost, and I dug down to the bottom and there were worms in here, and I thought that they might have not been in here still because of the time of the season that it is. So I was very happy to see that. So this is what the compost looks like. I do use a lot of paper shreds because we don't get a lot of leaves in this area. But yeah, it's looking good. I see some baby mushrooms growing down there. See what looks like movement. Yeah, there's definitely some movement in there. So got some worm movement. Some flies. Whole bunch of decomposing going on. You can see it looks like that's breathing, so that means things are working. So if you're still with me at this point in the video, I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a subscriber to Soul Appeal Wellness. I appreciate each and every one of you. I thought it would be a nice change of pace to take a break from the yoga and meditation and show you what I've been up to and why I have not been posting as much as I would like to, just because life gets in the way sometimes, and when I'm not busy driving one of my kids somewhere, I'm trying to get back here to do work. So a couple weeks ago I was back here just kind of hauling back a new batch of wood chips to remulch everything. So that's why some areas have what looks like fresh mulch, and then some areas look a little ashy or dry. I haven't gotten to all of it as of yet. There's still a big pile sitting in the driveway, and I will likely have to get more once that's gone, just because the work never stops, and the more I keep planting, the more I will have to keep mulching eventually. So again, just wanted to say thank you. I will keep you updated on the progress, and please let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions for the layout of my backyard. I've been trying to use ChatGPT. I've been looking online just to get different ideas, because I know once we get to filling these areas in, we won't be able to change things more than likely afterwards, or not as easily as starting out bare. So if you have any suggestions, I'm definitely open to it, and I appreciate it. I welcome it. If you have any feedback on anything that you've seen in this video or anything else that I've posted, please feel free to share it. And if there's anything else that you'd like to see on this channel, please let me know in the comments. And as always, if you did enjoy this video and you're not already a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. Please feel free to share with other people that you know and that could benefit from the information, or who just might like to see what Soul Appeal Wellness is all about. But until next time, thank you again. Have a great day. Bye, guys.